Welcome to Front and Center Ice, presented by Run Pure Bets. My name is JC Zargo. I'm joined here by Nadesify and Tanner, and we're here to break down today's NHL slate. New show, hoping to make it a weekly thing. So if you like it, drop a comment, drop a like. Come join us on the Discord for our members. But yeah, let's just jump right into it, man. Any thoughts on the hockey season to this point, or anything you saw last night that you're surprised by?
Bizarre.
Go ahead, Tanner. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Just a lot of weird things. Like the last couple of weeks, we've been talking in the Discord and stuff. It's just numbers don't really seem to mean anything. Like Islanders come out and pump the Devils on home ice. They pull Vanacek. So it seems like the league's been very streaky. Hot teams stay hot for a while. Cold teams stay very cold. And yeah, it just there really doesn't seem like a rhyme or reason for a lot of it. But it's been fun. A lot of entertaining stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. What about you, man?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Echoing Tanner a little bit last night. Had no intentions of seeing the Isles slam the Devils, who have been one of the best teams in the league this year, and kind of took the league by surprise. I know Maddie and I on the DFS side, Maddie was kind of touting the Devils early as a team to watch out for, and they definitely have shown that they live up to that hype, right? But as we saw last night, variance is big, right, in this sport, and sometimes the numbers obviously don't always tell the truth, right? And kind of got rolled over last night by the Isles, but that's going to happen always, right? That's the game we play. Kind of like the other night, right, with the Blues too, and Blues in that spot were definitely not on my radar at all on the DFS side, and a lot of those pieces did get there as they kind of steamrolled. So it's been interesting, but overall it's been profitable on the fantasy side, in the Discord streets and in our content over on that side. So can't really complain too much.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a great call. I mean, Run Pure, kind of fantasy first, but we handle a lot of stuff on the betting side. So a lot of the hockey content specifically, Tanner, your articles are free, aren't they?
Yes, they are free.
So yeah, even if you're not a member, you can come check us out. Run Pure, check out the betting sides. I give my hockey picks via prize pick plays, but even for just our straight bettors, you can just use those as prop plays. And then Nadesify, he's always dropping the core. So, grab a membership, check him out. We'll be talking both bets and DFS on this show. For me, though, honestly, the biggest surprise has been Seattle. I mean, the team was just gross last year. They even started first couple games, didn't look great. And then they've just been tremendous to this point, really running with the big dogs in the Pacific. Still a huge gap between them and Vegas, but I mean, they're as good as anyone in the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that I should have hit on too. I mean, they're a scrappy squad. They got some guys that can score, right? They can play with the best of them, and I'll put them up against anyone. Sometimes they're going to lack the depth a little bit, right, and the firepower of the star-studded top lines, right, of some of these Maple Leaf teams, the Oilers, things like that you talk about, right? But I mean, they can play defense. Jones has been solid in that, right? And they have a solid squad that scores, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're going to be playing for a cup anytime soon, but at least now it's something those Seattle fans can get excited about.
I said they just play very, very structured hockey. I mean, Ron Francis is a great GM. He's built winning teams in the past.
For sure. All right, guys, let's just jump right into it. I mean, we got a game starting out, in 30 minutes here. Not a great game. Ottawa Senators visiting Nashville. Ottawa, one of the worst teams in the league. Nashville, they're hanging around. They have some nice wins. They've actually won 7 of the last 10, so they're on a nice little streak, but just not that good. 7-3, 1-1 at home, though, so I certainly give them the edge tonight. Tanner, I'll start with you, man. What are your thoughts on this game?
I love the Predators here. Saros has been electric on home ice. His numbers aren't as good this year as they've been in the past, but looking at it, most of his crappy games come on the road. He's just been lights out on home ice.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me, man, I mean, the money line's sitting at 140, which isn't terrible.
No, I do like that.
Missing the stat. I don't know if you have the puck line handy.
Puck line's
I got
170.
Yeah.
What do you? Which way do you lean?
I think puck line or just money line. I was looking at the Preds don't really cover too much, so I don't know. Minus 135. I'm looking at, and I don't mind that line at all for him.
No. Nade's fine, man. What about you? Any thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I kind of agree. That puck line seeing 1.5, I can see a 2-1 game here. Looking at my numbers, both teams are pretty solid defensively. Don't strike the page is crazy in terms of the offensive scoring. I will say Nash does take a lot of penalties, and they have a decent power play in the last 5. So could see some goals there, and obviously Roman the Great, Josie can kind of put the team on his back. Forsberg's obviously there. So lean the Predators side. I haven't looked a ton at the early slate for DFS. I'm mainly focusing on the main slate here. But obviously Roman, Forsberg can always be played. Don't love this game, to be honest, for DFS.
For sure. And then, I mean, Talbot and Soros in net. Talbot hasn't been great this year, but you guys still kind of lean under at 6.5 goals.
Yeah, definitely. Like with Saros and that, like I said, both teams are so good defensively and everything, and Ottawa's just so hit or miss, especially being on the road. You can't count on them.
Yeah, we could see a 3-1 type Preds win that would secure that puck line, but I would feel more confident just kind of riding the money line here.
Yeah, especially at minus 135.
Right.
Cool. Right on. Pretty gross game. Nothing really get too excited about. Anyways, so we'll just move along. Up next, Dallas Stars at Red Wings. Dallas Stars, I mean, can you talk about the Dallas Stars? I'm talking about Jason Robertson. He's been tremendous this season. Playing against a Red Wings team that hasn't been great, looked terrible against Florida. I mean, this Atlantic division, it's kind of Boston, Toronto, Tampa, and though the Red Wings are next, it's a huge drop-off in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, specifically Jason Robertson, he's looked fantastic. Do you think he can keep it up all season, or is he just kind of having a moment?
I think I don't know if he keeps this pace. He's on pace for what, like 85 goals or something ridiculous. That's just not possible. But I think he's easily a 50 goal scorer. Like he's going to keep a very impressive pace all year, and he's going to be someone to watch in the future. He's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean,
just quick correction. I know I said at Red Wings, but Dallas is home. Worth noting they're 8-3-1-2 at home. Yeah, Nate's a 5-man. What you got?
Yeah, nothing short of amazing from this top line here from Dallas. I know our coordinator, Prize Picks Fellowship VIP, is a Dallas sports homer and has been peeling to this Dallas Stars squad
no doubt.
over the last 2 weeks. Right, every time he jumps in the hockey chat, he's posting his core, and it's the Gary of MLB over on the NHL side over here. He's got stars listed in his lineup every night they're on the slate, and I will tell you, the last 2 weeks, he's probably been profitable, right? Because this top line has just been incredible. Robertson's been nothing short of amazing. I mean, he's cracked 30 a couple times this season, had a 46 piece. I mean, he's averaging 20 fantasy points a game the last 5. He has been slowed down the last 2 games, though, with Toronto and Ottawa. So on the 3-game slate, I'm sure he's going to be one of the highest owned guys on the slate. So might look somewhere else, maybe to Pav and Miro and some of these other guys, right? And just kind of get your exposures through Robertson through that. But other than that, I mean, this Stars squad is pretty incredible, especially this top line.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of already hit on it, but I was going to say, I mean, he had no points the last 2 games. That's coming off that horrible streak. So you would just kind of fade him on today's slate, not expecting a bounce back for him facing the Red Wings.
Yeah, I mean, his price is 8,800. He does have solid history. I don't know how much history really plays into it, but I tend to look at it a decent amount, and it's done pretty well for me just in terms of not using it as a sole metric, right? But just kind of a baseline to see. So he does have a pretty solid history against Detroit. He is at home. He could bounce back here, but in terms of ownership, like I said, on the 3-game, he's got to be up there, and 8,800 is a pretty steep price. I might look to Chuck and Kucherov in the next game that we're going to talk about if I'm spending that salary.
Cool. And then Tanner, man, Red Wings money line plus 162, Stars puck line plus 122. Which way are you feeling on this?
Nothing about this game really excites me here. I mean, I could see it going either way. Like I've said before, Husso has been just unbelievable for the Red Wings right now. And I mean, Red Wings plus 1.5 is minus 145, and that's not terrible. I don't know if I'd take anything in this, but I mean, if you really want something here, plus 1.5 for the Red Wings, I don't hate that.
Yeah, interesting stat. Another one for you. Looking at the over/under. The under is 4-0 in the Red Wings' last 4, but like all the games, it was like 6 goals. So like they're just scraping that under.
Yeah,
you're right. Husso's been great in net. And then Stars, you just don't know. Like they got shut up 2 nights ago to Ottawa, took them to overtime. So it's just right now, I think it's a fade.
Both teams can pop off. Both teams can be absolute duds. It depends on the night.
Yeah, one thing I will say that kind of works towards the wing side here is looking at their power play metrics. The Stars' power play at home the last 5 is sitting at about 15% cash-in rate. We've seen when they've gone on the stretch, right? It's a lot of their goals have come from that power play, right? Because of the star-studded strength, the Robertson, Rupe's up there, Miro. But Detroit kind of limits power plays, and they have a very good power play, a power penalty kill, I should say. Sorry, excuse me. So, I mean, they could limit this here, and they might squeak out a win in kind of an ugly 3-2 type game, which would play to that under. But, again, don't love it.
Yeah, for sure. And then for anyone who thinks Robertson's going to have a bounce-back night tonight, over 1.5 points for him, sitting at plus 138, goal minus 102. Some might stay off till he shows he's back on it, but something to think about.
Yeah, I mean, taking plus money, though, there with his talent and how he's played all year might be something to jump on, to be honest, but might be something to watch for. Yeah.
All right, next on the slate, this is kind of one of the matchups I'm most excited for. It's Atlantic Division matchup. Before I move on, do you guys have anything else? Are you guys good on that game? On the Dallas?
I'm good.
Good here.
Cool. Yep. So Florida Panthers heading over to Tampa. The Lightning are 9-4-0-1 at home. Florida, such a high-scoring team of late. Not nearly as good as they were last year, but Vasilevsky expected in net for Tampa, and hard to put up goals on him. This team, a lot of changes in the offseason, just not the same that they were last year. What are your guys' thoughts on, Florida, kind of how they've adjusted, started to get on a little roll here, going up against a tough Tampa team? Nades, I'll start with you.
Yeah. So Florida went on a little stretch there where they kind of struggled, and that was definitely due to the back of Barkov being out. Mm-hmm. He's one of the best defensive and offensive centers in the league. And I know on the DFS side, Maddie and I have stressed to the members to kind of slam teams against this Florida squad while Barkov was out, right? And it boded pretty well in a lot of those games where they just don't have the defense that they do when Barkov's in there. So him being back definitely helps. He's sitting at a nice price on this early slate at 7,100. Coming back from being out for looks like 6 games. Yeah. That's a nice price point there. And in a good matchup, right? Vaz has not been the Vaz that we've seen of years past. I don't know what's going on there. Part of it could be because this Tampa squad is just not as deep as they have been in the past, right? They don't have the third, fourth line bangers that they did in the past, right? Limiting that, putting more on the shoulders of Vaz, which some nights he can handle, right? But it's not been what it has been like the past couple of years. So definitely lean to the Florida side here at first look.
Say I was going to go the other way simply because of Bobrovsky. He has just been terrible in that. Yeah. He's not the $10 million man that they signed a few years ago. And Barkov being back is a huge addition for them, but I can't get past him. And if he gets lit up early and they bring in their backup, who I'm not even sure he's played before. But Alex Lyon. But it comes down to him and being on home ice. I like the Bolts on that one.
For sure. The thing about this Tampa team, man, super slow start to the season. A team of this talent, though, 3 straight cup appearances. You worried about them, or you think it's just, they'll get rolling once it starts to really matter?
It's tough to say. I think it.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Tanner. Okay. It's tough to say. I mean, it's going to come down to Vasilevsky, right? Part of that, like I said, the last cups is been. He's just been a stone wall, right? And they've been scoring, right? Kucherov, Stammer, those guys have kind of gone off. I will say Point is kind of on another level right now. He's just a walking flamethrower on the DFS side for the Bolts. So seeing him get some life back there definitely gives a boost to the Bolts here. But like I said, they're not as deep as they once were. And there's some really good teams this year. The Bruins are looking incredible. Devils are up there. So we'll see what happens with Tampa.
Yeah, I still think they're a playoff team. Like you said, yeah, the depth just isn't there anymore. So they're so much more reliant on Vasilevsky to stand on his head, and he can do it. It's tough for him to do it every single game. And I do like Point, though. He's plus 150 as a goal scorer. And like you said, he's been a flamethrower, and he's just been on a tear lately.
Yeah, one thing with Point is he's shooting more than he ever has kind of in the past, right? We've kind of seen him be more of a distributor, right, in the past. And I think he's kind of realized that, hey, look, yeah, Kucherov and Stamkos are elite, right? But I'm also can score, right? So if I take some shots here, it's been kind of a distribute first mindset in the past. So that's one thing that we've kind of looked at on the DFS side, right? Is typically I never really like paying the salary for Point because of that, right? Assists are not as much as goals, right? And you want the goals, and obviously assists are good, but Point's price is always cheaper than Stamkos and Kucherov, and he's been the one that's been scoring.
Yeah, and then from a DFS perspective on Florida, man, I was kind of interested. So, like Sam Reinhart not playing as well this season, Brandon Montour's having a breakout season, but overall on this Florida team, they're sharing the puck. You know, there's no one's really dominating without like Huberto this season. Are you really using Panthers players a lot, or how are you attacking that from a DFS perspective, Nate?
Yeah, like I said, Barkov's price sitting at 7,100. Shooting in the last 5, obviously that's a little stretch because he was out for 6 games there. But even last game when he returned, he had an assist. So he's always going to be involved. One thing, Carter Verhaeghe has just been crazy on this top line. He's getting power play run as well. He has 220 plus games in his last 4. And he's averaging 4 shots per game, right, over the last 5. And he's sitting at 5.8K. So that's a nice price point there on him. And another thing to note, these D-men, right, Forsling and Ekblad have just been crazy. Part of that was because Barkov was out, right? So they're just seeing a ton of ice time. So the Panthers have some very nice prices on this 3-game slate here. And like I said, Vaz hasn't been great in that. And Tampa's power penalty kill is sitting at 65% in the last 5 at home. So that definitely bodes well if the Cats can get on the power play here.
Cool. Right on, man. Tanner, any thoughts on that, man? You got any input on the DFS side for that with Florida?
I mean, they just shoot the puck a ton. They, I think, only are beat out by the Devils right now. So any guys on that top line, like Kachuk, probably average, I don't know the number off the top of my head, probably like 4 shots a game. He's an unbelievable DFS player, especially with Barkov back. Like, he's the dish man for him. And that top line for them, like you said, the D-men for them have been unbelievable this year. Even when Ekblad was out, like Forsling stepped up and took a big role for them. And they're just getting it done from a lot more places than I think they were last year.
For sure. Right on. Any other thoughts on the game before we move on?
No, I think it's definitely the marquee game for this early 3-game slate if you're looking there for DFS. Personally, I'm not playing it, but if I was, I would be kind of looking to this game. Even a game stack's viable on a 3-gamer. And like I said, those Cats prices are nice and should be lower owned, right? Because they're facing the Bolts, and I don't know, the industry is kind of caught up, or the market's kind of caught up to Vaz is not the Vaz that he has been in the past. So you can score on this Bolts team.
Yeah, for sure. I personally, I don't know if anyone gave a pick on this one yet. I kind of lean Florida. They're just hot right now. I like the plus money next to the team name. What about you, Tanner?
Yeah, I was thinking Tampa on this one just because they are at home, and I know Vasilevsky can stand on his head, and I hate to keep going back to it, but just how bad Bobrovsky is.
Fair enough.
Tampa, they just have Kucherov and Stamkos are just such elite goal scorers. If you give them the chances, they're going to light him up.
Yeah. And then before we move on, I got a question in the chat. Best Buy Eater wants to know, do you guys, how much you guys value certain statistics like Corsi percentage as far as Fenwick percentage on your handicapping? Thank you for the insight and takes. personally, for those that are kind of new to this, that's just the difference of basically every shot coming off towards the net versus one that actually make it to the keeper. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Tanner.
No, that's right. It's the amount of shots taken versus shots against or something like that. I personally don't look at it a ton. The deep stats are nice sometimes, but I don't know. There's just so many of them, and they make you start to overthink sometimes. And I don't. I like looking at the base numbers and just giving it the eye test.
For sure.
One
for
call
sure.
out
I know. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, one call out I will have. I do have a matchup sheet that I put out every single day on the DFS side. It's on the website. That kind of breaks down the last 5 metrics for shots for, shots against, power play metrics, and teams that are taking penalties and giving up penalties. So that's a good baseline too. I know Tanner looks at it quite a bit in terms of looking at kind of a high level overview before diving in more. So good look there. Looks like Pie Eater. If you're a member on the website, it's updated every single morning. So
yeah, great reason to join Run Pure, guys. If you're not, like I said, Tanner and I putting out free content, but Nadesify every day putting out quality content. You can use it for your sports betting or for your DFS. So if you're not a member, guys, great time to join. So moving right along. Jumping on to the next game, we were talking about this one a lot pre-show. It was a great game last night, and it's a rematch of the Sabres and the Penguins. So last night, phenomenal game. Penalties were kind of the story here, as Pittsburgh had a lead late in the third. Power play for Buffalo. They tied it. Then right before the end of the third period, Buffalo, penalty, Pittsburgh, power play. And when you have 4-on-3 advantage of overtime, it's going to be short, and it was. So going into this one, Sabres plus 175 on the money line. Looking like both backup tendies will be in net. Tanner, I'll start with you, man. What are your thoughts here? Penguins take it home again, or did Buffalo upset?
I mean, you know what I'm going to say. But Penguins are definitely going to win this one. I mean, UPL, I don't even want to attempt to pronounce his name. He just isn't very good. He's averaging, I believe, like 4 goals against on the road, and the Penguins on home ice have just been lighting teams up. They've hit the 5 and 6 goal mark multiple times this year. Both teams being on a back-to-back. I mean, I trust DeSmith. He's been solid. He hasn't been the best, but he's been good enough. I mean, I do like the over for this. It's 6.5 minus 125. The Penguins give up goals. There's no doubt about that. And with Letang out, the back end's a little thinner. Not too bad, though. But, yeah, I like the Penguins, as always.
For sure. I mean, this Sabre team is so weird, man. They're one of the highest scoring teams in the league, yet they have one of the worst records. Nadesify, man, how do you look from a DFS perspective? How do you look at this game? How do you look at the Sabres in general when you're building your lineup?
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely a tasty spot here. I think the Penguins, no surprise that Tanner's back in his home boys. It's again we got a lot of homers here on the Run Pier side. But it makes sense here. One thing to note, Tag Thompson is just a complete stud. I mean, he's got a 4-goal game, had 5 goals the other night. But he's probably an easy fade for me tonight here. I know Maddie and I kind of touted the fade last night, and it definitely worked. I mean, you get people, especially on a Saturday, right? DFS sports are kind of weaker, so you might see some more people diving into the NHL streets. I know AP made a comment in chat that he might fire up some NHL winners. So come join us. But typically they'll look at box scores, right? And we all sometimes fall into that struggle, right? Of clicking on a box score and seeing a 70 piece, right, from a hockey player. It's kind of hard to go away from it. But I mean, his ownership should be inflated. It's a smaller slate. One thing with Buffalo, I mean, you can't let this team get on the power play. I mean, their power play is just absolutely elite. You got Dahlin, you got Tag, Skinner, Tuck, and Cozens, who's been just absolutely incredible. So if I were to go to the Sabre side here in DFS, I would probably look to that Dylan Cozens line and even maybe a small power play correlation between him, leave Tag out of it and maybe grab Dahlin or something like that. But I lean the Penguins side here. I think the Penguins kind of steamroll this team. But Buffalo has been the second best road scoring team in the league the last 5. So, I mean, they're averaging over 4 goals per game. 4.5 goals per game, last 5 on the road. And they get DeSmith in net tonight, backup tender. So this definitely could be a shootout, like a 6-5 game, something like that. Could we see a lot of fireworks and definitely probably is needed for DFS tonight.
Yeah, for sure. I know last night Tanner and I were talking about the man Rickard Rakell. He was one of my favorites in Anaheim. Now he's in Pittsburgh on an awesome line with Gunsel and Crosby. From a DFS perspective, I mean, knowing how much action that line going to get, do you kind of have a lean with those guys? It kind of just looking on price based on the night, or how have you been playing them?
Yeah, perfect. So one thing that I've always kind of looked at in terms of DFS, I don't know if it's right, wrong, or indifferent, but I typically like to target lines 1 and 3 more at home, right? Because of the line dictation and they get the last change and things like that. So their star-studded line, right? That Crosby, Jake top line is going to get the last change. So can kind of play matchups a little bit. Obviously, matchups aren't huge in NHL, but any little boost to pick a line, especially like the Penguins, who have their 2 top lines are both crazy good, right? So I definitely lean to the top line here in Sid. Sid's been quiet last. He kind of came off a dud last night, right? So I look for him to bounce back because the last 5 outside of last night, he's been great, right? Jake obviously scored last night. Jake's been good. So I lean this top line here for the Pen, and definitely probably one of my top stacks tonight is this Pittsburgh's top line.
Yeah, Tanner, go ahead, man. What were your thoughts on that?
I was going to say, yeah, especially DFS wise, Rakell's pricing a $5,600 player playing with
Way too
Crosby.
cheap.
Yeah, that's just way too cheap for someone who can play that well playing with Crosby and Gensel.
For sure.
Yeah, he's averaging over 3 shots per game last 5. He's averaging almost 13 points per game. He's getting some blocks, and I mean, he's just doing it all. Top power play. 5.6K is definitely way too cheap here. Ownership will likely follow because it is a 5-game slate. But again, NHL, I don't worry too much about ownership in terms of DFS, just because there's so many different ways to get different in terms of correlations and stuff like that, much like MLB, right? Where typically goalie, if it's a super chalky goalie, I'll look to get different there because that's the most volatile position. But in terms of the line stacks and stuff like that, I don't really factor in ownership a ton.
Yeah. Tanner, man, I'm sure I won't get a biased opinion out of you, man, but what do you think about this Pittsburgh team, man? Are they really a contender for the Cup? I mean, certainly with Crosby, they're always a contender, but think they got a real shot this year?
It depends on that bottom 6. The bottom 6 started the season so well. I think they had every single forward on the team that had recorded a goal in the first 6 or 7 games. If they can maintain, it's been better lately. The third line with Jeff Carter, Brock McGinn, and who's that third? They've been rotating Heinen, Kapanen, and stuff like that. Yeah, so Kapanen popped off with a hat trick the other night, so he probably won't score for another 6 months. But that third line's been playing so well, and now that Teddy Bluger's back in the lineup, their penalty kill has been so much better. He's one of the I can't say enough good things about him. He's just such a good defensive player. He's good in the circle, great penalty killer. Just one of those guys you need to have to win a cup. And I don't know, like you said, as long as they have Crosby, Gino, Letang, and all those guys, they can definitely win a cup.
So I mean, I kind of agree. They got a really good team, kind of like Tampa, where they got a bit of a slow start, but they can obviously pick it up. But I was looking at the odds, man. The Florida Panthers have better odds in Vegas of winning the cup. I think Penguins are sitting at 1-22 to win. Nate's a 5-man. How about you? Maybe a little more unbiased. What do you think? Given those odds, what are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to bode on the back of Jari, right? I mean, Jari has shown in the past, right, he can be incredible and stand on his head and stop 40 shots a game, or he can let up 6 and get pulled from the game, right? So, I mean, I think it comes down to that. It comes down to injuries, too. I mean, if one of these top guys, Malkin, Sid, Jake, obviously Letang's going through some issues, had some issues. If some of these guys go down, I mean, this team kind of falls off the table, in my opinion. I know Tanner doesn't like to hear that, but it's just the fact, right? When your stars go down, it's tough to kind of battle, and they're so top heavy. Obviously, this lower half, the third and fourth lines, have shown ability to score, but I mean that needs to keep up, right? Because some of these other teams that are the favorites are 3-4 lines deep that can all score and play defense.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think, man? Pittsburgh better odds than Florida to win the Cup? Who do you like better?
I'll definitely side with the with the Penguins there, just because I think they just got the better goaltending. Bob has been terrible, and their backup is an AHL tender, so definitely go with the Penguins.
Yeah, no, that really seems like an awesome buy low, sell high situation. Throw $5 on Pittsburgh to win the Cup.
Yeah.
To win 100.
To be fair, the last few years when they've lost in the playoffs, whoever's they've lost to have gone on to the conference finals. So
they're
losing to good teams at least, and there's always been injuries.
Anything else on this game before we move on?
Yeah, one thing I did want to call out in terms of punt D-man, obviously in terms of DFS, everyone likes to go to that value bin for defenders. Jan Rutta has been crazy, and he's sitting at 2.7K. He doesn't get power play run, but he still sees about 20 minutes per game. He's shooting the puck close to 3 times per game, and he's averaging right around 10 fantasy points, which is great at 2,700 the last 3. So that's one guy to keep an eye on there.
Awesome. Great call out. Tanner, you're on Pittsburgh puck line?
Always.
Nate, how about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, I side with the Pittsburgh, but it won't shock me to see Buffalo take this one, just because Pittsburgh allows the second most shots per game at home in the league. Buffalo is the second best road scoring team in the league, and I mean, Tag can do what he did the other night, right? And obviously 5 goals is an outlier, but if he scores 2 or 3, I mean, that might be enough. So.
Yeah.
So the over for this game is definitely my favorite play for it. Minus 125. It's both teams can light it up and get lit up. So yeah, the over is definitely where I'm looking.
Did we lose him?
We might have.
Oh boy. All right, let's jump into jump into
I'm back. You got me?
game. Yeah,
we got you.
Okay, you're back.
Okay. I appreciate you pulling on there. I don't know what's going on with my internet right now. I was gonna say, I've seen I could see it being another overtime game or Buffalo upset, so I don't really like the puck line. But with backup tendies in net and Sabres back up again, like Tanner, you said, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. Just been horrid. Over 6.5 goals. Easy play here. But moving on, man. Donnie in the chat, man. Calgary going to be playing Mad tonight. They got dumped on my Columbus last night. Be that as his may, man, this Toronto team is incredible. They've been battling injuries, but still looked incredible. 9-2-3 at home. Haven't allowed a goal in their last 2. So for me, man, the question isn't, is Toronto going to win? Is Calgary even going to score a goal? What do you think, Tanner?
I mean, I think they get one. They're going to be standing all around the net. There's no way Daryl doesn't have this team fired up coming in tonight. He's got them walking on eggshells. I mean, the guy's a quote machine in every post-game presser. But yeah, Matt Murray's just been playing out of his mind. I'm glad to see him bounce back after the struggles he had the past few years. He doesn't deserve some of the hate he's gotten, but I'm glad to see him playing well. I think this is the best Leafs team we've seen in a while. I know they're not putting up the goals. Matthews isn't on pace for 60 again. But they're just playing so well defensively, and I don't think anyone had that on the bingo card coming in, that the Leafs were going to be that good, especially on home ice. I believe they're third in the league for goals against, allowing under 3 a game. Like you said, shutouts the last 2 games. I don't think they get I don't think they get the shutout tonight. Flames are going to be coming in hot, but I do like lean Leafs here.
Yeah, man. I mean, Calgary, they've been hanging tough in a really tough Pacific division. I agree. No one really thought they'd be this good. Losing Johnny Hockey. Had a couple of nice additions, including Kadri. So they're definitely a tough team, but I mean, Toronto's just been red hot. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, can't fault you there. Toronto has averaged under 2 goals, sitting at about 1.8 goals per game last 5 at home, which is absolutely incredible. So I mean, even if the Flames score 2 here, I don't see how Toronto doesn't win the game with 3 or 4. I mean, Matthews has been quiet for his standards, right? But he's consistently putting up 15 to 20 DK points minimum. That's kind of his floor right now. Murray did have a 44 save shutout last game, so could look for a little bit regression there. But I mean, last game, if you didn't have Murray, you weren't taking down a tournament on the DFS side. I don't know if I see something like that, just because Calgary doesn't shoot the puck a ton. I mean, they're averaging under 30 shots per game on the road. And but that again, they got their asses chewed kind of last night in terms of getting destroyed by Columbus, who have literally couldn't stop a nosebleed the last 2 weeks in terms, and then Calgary kind of goes in and lays an egg. So they could definitely be fired up, and that definitely bodes well in terms of hockey players, right? They kind of take that on their shoulders, right? And I'm going to show you mentality. But Murray's just been incredible. So definitely like Murray in that 8,100. Solid price point, but I think his ownership might be a little inflated from, again, the box score watchers. 44 save shutout, 44 DK points last game is pretty and crazy for a goalie. So with a shorter slate and goalie is not great. There's a lot of backup tenders in that outside of him. I think he's going to be the clear favorite for the chalk goalie.
Right on. Yeah, like I said, man, this team just had like so many injuries, and Matthews, I think he only put up 3 goals in the first month of play. He's really starting to get on a roll now. So if they can get to full health by playoff time, what do you think, man? Does Toronto have a chance of bringing a cup back to Canada?
It's tough to say. I mean, right? It's been the same Leafs story the last how many years, right? They get there and then they fall flat on their face, right?
The first round exits.
Getting beat by the Habs last year, right? Just nobody kind of saw that coming. I mean, this team has just been crazy all year, right? They got the stars, Nylander, Matthews, Tavares. They're deep. They got the defense. They have the tender now in Murray. If he can keep this up, right, and not regress to the Murray that we have seen sometimes in the past. But can they overcome that playoff kind of gorilla on their back, right, and get upset by a team that just comes in hot, right, and kind of rolls over them.
Yeah, Tanner.
So I like I said, I think this is the best Leafs team we've seen in a while because they're playing a much more complete game than they have before. But yeah, with that playoff, the first round exit monkey sitting on their back, I mean, I think if they get to the playoffs and they find themselves, down 2-0 or something, I just think the media in Toronto especially is just going to eat away at that team mentally, and just I don't know if they can do it. I don't know. No cup. I don't think a cup. I think playoffs for sure. No cup.
You're already going on a limb predicting them to go to playoffs, but I get what you're saying, man.
Hot takes on the
like
show.
Obi-Wan here, really Canada's only hope.
Yep.
To bring a cup home. Right on. And then are both you riding puck line Toronto?
Yeah, I definitely like them. I like the Leafs team total of 3.5. You get that nice plus sign next to it for plus 100. They've consistently been hitting that like 4-goal mark for the most part over the last 10 games, and they're just in possession of the puck so much right now. And Vladar's in that. I mean, he's been playing well, but with the Flames on that back-to-back, even if they get that fire under their ass, I just don't know if they can play with this Leafs team right now.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're getting plus money on the puck line here. Looks like about 150, 160 range. So that's not a terrible because like even if they squeak out a 3-1 ugly kind of game, right? I mean, they cover that. So that's definitely a look there. In terms of fantasy DFS purposes, I like them, but as I wrote up in the game breakdown that will be posted on the site later in terms of our playbook on the DFS side, I don't know if I really love this game in terms of DFS, to be honest with you. Just Calgary has been better on the road in terms of allowing goals. I mean, they're sitting under 3. So this could be, like I said, a 3-1 game. And at these prices on these Leafs and likely the ownership, I don't know if they really get it done for you in DFS side, but more to come on that later.
Right on. Totally agree with the I would take the puck line just at that price. I just think it's a great value. Sure, Calgary could come in, hot and ready, but I just don't see it happening. Before we move on, guys, please drop us a like. Love to get this regular show. Love to maybe do it on a more regular basis, a couple times a week. But we need support. So drop a like, and check us out at Run Pure Bets and Run Pure Sports. Native Eyes dropping the DFS can't miss takes. Moving on, though, we got the LA Kings visiting the Montreal Canadiens. Kings, fun stat about them, man. They are 10-5 on the road. They are a scrappy, fun team. They've been a bit of a surprise, doing pretty well in the Pacific Division. As for the Montreal Canadiens, they've taken quite a step back in the last year or two. They're not what they once were. Right now, they're trying to avoid being lumped in with the Senators and Sabres in their division. Kind of an ugly game here. I'm not loving it. Nate's fine. What about you, man?
Yeah, this is actually kind of a little sneaky game in my opinion on the Kings side in terms of DFS. They got very, very good price tags. Montreal has just been an absolute dumpster fire defensively at home. Obviously, Jake Allen is in that tonight. He's been an RPS hero for us. I think we post that every time in the playbook on the DFS side because he can just stand on his head, save 40, 50 shots, and win the game single-handedly. But we haven't quite seen that recently just because their defense has just been terrible. I mean, they're allowing 4.7 goals per game last 5 at home, which is incredible. It's about as green as it gets on my matchup sheet that I'm looking at here that I use for DFS matchups. Their penalty kills sitting at about 80%, but that's not great when you give up nearly 4 chances per game. I mean, you could look for the Kings power play to knock in 1 or 2 here. Again, their price tags are crazy. Victor Arvidsson, 4.8K. Arthur Kiliev, I think his name is been kind of crazy. He's a stud. All these price tags are very cheap, so I definitely like them a lot for the DFS side, and they might make my core, to be honest with you.
Right on, love it. Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. Like that's kind of my problem with this game is knowing what Jake Allen's capable of. I'm not comfortable taking the Kings puck line, but I'm also not about to take Canadians money line, and I don't see the value at Kings money line at -170. What do you think, Tanner?
Yeah, so there's nothing I love about this game. Like you said, Jake Allen, RPS hero, he can stand on his head when need be. And the Canadians are one of those teams, especially on home ice, when they get that second change, sometimes they just, like their defense has been bad, but sometimes they just turn it on and just shut teams down. And if you get Cole Caulfield enough chances, he's going to score. Phoenix Copley's in. He only allowed 2 in his last game. Small sample size. You don't really know how he's actually going to play. But I don't know. I definitely lean Kings here. Like you said, the Canadians give up 4 chances a game. Kings power plays running at 25% on the season, and it's tough. The Kings can score goals.
Last 5 on the road, so
yeah,
a little bit better on the road.
They're just lighting teams up when they get the chances, and if you give them enough chances, they're just going to kill you.
Yeah.
One call out to make too on the DFS side, Caulfield and Suzuki, their splits at home are kind of crazy. Those two, that top line is always live to score a goal, 2, 3 goals. So don't hate them, but again, their price tags. I mean, Caulfield's at 7K, so I don't know if I want to pay 7K for Caulfield when we got some other teams on the slate that are like Pittsburgh, right? Am I going to play Caulfield over Jake and Sid? I don't know. So that's why I lean the Kings side here. And Kings have been good to us on the DFS side for a while here.
So from a betting perspective, I mean, Suzuki's +160 as a goal scorer, and Caulfield is +150. If you're going to give me Cole Caulfield +150.
Yeah, those are great odds.
I would definitely like that. Like I said, their home splits are great, and Caulfield is, I mean, he's a stud. So definitely, if you're getting plus money on those two, I definitely don't mind that.
What do you think about the Kings' playoff hopes and Cups? Cups might be a bit drastic, but I mean, in the standings, they're right there with Seattle and Edmonton. Do you think they're built for the long haul, Nate Spy?
A cup is a far stretch just because they don't have the goaltending. We'll see what Copley becomes, right? But Quick is just not quick as Swiss cheese in that. So I mean, he's going to give up 2 or 3 game, and they're going to need to score. I'm not an Edmonton truther. Losing Evander Kane there definitely hurt them in terms of defense. But again, they have McDavid, they have Leon, they have some elite defenders there. They just never done it defensively, right? They've always just fizzled out. They can score with anyone, but anyone can also score on them. So I mean, the Kraken, I think I like better than the Kings, to be honest with you. Just on the backs of the goaltenders alone.
For sure. Tanner, what about you, man? I mean, I think, Cup's certainly a far stretch, but do you think this team could be more than a one and done?
I don't know. They're tough to get a read on because, like, they aren't playing great defensively. Like you said, goaltending's been terrible. Jonathan Quick is not the man who won the Cup 10 years ago, as no one is 10 years ago. No one's the same. But it's just strange to me because they're so offensive heavy, but they have Philip Deneau, they've got Anze Kopitar, who are some of the best defensive forwards in the league, but it just seems like most nights they aren't playing the defense. Because in the playoffs last year, we saw they went 7 games with, I think, the Oilers, and no one expected that from them.
Right. Yeah.
And I think they're a better team now that they added Fiala. So if they can figure out the goaltending, I think they can make a run. But right now, I don't see it. I think they're a playoff team, but I don't know.
It's also because the Central Division in the West is so much more deep competitive. I mean, outside of Vegas and the Pacific, the rest of the Pacific Division, it's kind of just hit or miss. Central's a lot stronger, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Edmonton. McDavid's going to do whatever he decides to do. Kraken are playing really well. I think they're a well-rounded team. Well, it's Vancouver. I don't know what's happening in that city.
They're a dumpster fire, man.
Yeah, it's
they're hot though.
Their coach is a donkey. I mean, Besser's not your issue, right? Like
No.
demoting him to the third line, then sitting him, and then playing him, putting him back on the second line, and he's come back guns a-blazing, right?
It's all mind
he's
games.
not your issue. Yeah, he's not your issue. Like they have the talent, they just don't have the leadership, and it's sad to see, right? Because Horvat and Pettersson and Besser and Miller, and I mean, they
So
just
much
have
talent on that
absolute,
team.
and they're going to lose them now, right? Because a lot of those contracts are up, and they're not going to be able to pay those guys, and quite frankly, they're not going to want to stay, right, with that kind of leadership that they have going on. So it's sad to see there. They definitely should be better than 12-15 with the team that they have. And Demko, I mean, Demko's a stud in that. I truly believe that. I think he's one of the best tenders in the league, but I mean, that team is just absolutely, morale is just shot. So I mean,
they're a great
I think that
overteam.
plays into right. Absolutely.
All gas, no brakes.
Right, as we saw against the Nucks the other night, right, where the 7-6 overtime win, 5-0 lead, and you blow it, right? And
I know, crazy.
It's just crazy what we see out of the squad, but
for sure.
Yeah, I think the Kings. I think they make a playoff push.
For sure. Right on. Any other thoughts on this game or these teams?
Nothing for me.
I think we covered it.
Cool. Before we move on, Best Players got another question. Wants to get to know the crew a little bit better. Do you guys prefer playing DFS in hockey or just bets? Love the debut show. Personally, man, I am all bets. I dabble in DFS hockey for sure. Nowhere near the expert Nate Zafai is, man. That's kind of his specialty. But what about you, man? You get into the bets much?
I don't. I live in Wisconsin, so it's a little bit different. I have to kind of drive up to the brick and mortar sports book that we have available, or do kind of offshores and stuff. So I don't dabble too much in that. Mainly DFS. I play pretty much every sport in terms of DFS, so focus on that. And Matty Ice is another absolute legend, and I partner with him on the DFS side. So we provide the winners each and every night. There's a slate, so definitely DFS for me.
And then Tanner, man, you're putting out best bets articles nearly every day. They're for free. Run pure bet side. But do you get into the DFS much?
I play it more or less every day, but I'm throwing $1 here, $1 there. I've got like a league with my girlfriend and her family. We do just for fun. Like I think DFS is more fun to play. Just you can get creative with lineups and just mess around, and it's an ego thing. You can prove you're right sometimes, but no, I definitely stay with the bet side more.
Right on. All right, moving on. Carolina Hurricanes head to New York, take on the Islanders. There are 3 teams ahead of the Islanders in the standings. They're trying to knock off 2 of them in back-to-back nights. Brutal upset against the Devils last night. They head back over the Hudson to host the Hurricanes, who have had some rest. Islanders, short dog here. Nate Zafai, man, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, this game is interesting because if I look at the numbers here, I mean, Carolina is one of the best road scoring teams in the league last 5, averaging over 3.5 goals per game. But the Islanders, believe Sorokin's in that. Is that correct tonight?
Yep.
Yeah.
Projected at least because they had he took last night off, so probably to face Carolina.
Okay.
Today.
Yeah. So, I mean, Sorokin has been absolute stud on the year. Outside of every time I play him in a high dollar entry in DFS, he decides to turn into Swiss cheese. So he's kind of on my do not play list for a while right now, just because he's burned me. But obviously that's not great in terms of DFS. Kind of take it day by day. But I do like the Canes here a little bit. Again, I don't love this game in terms of DFS. I mean, I could see this game playing 3-1. I even wrote that up in my game breakdown here, just because more defensive. Carolina's going to play more. I think play this more like a playoff game, right? And try and play for standings points here and just get out with a win. Islanders coming off a high last night, beating the Devils, which are one of the best teams in the league, and I still think they're one of the favorites for the Cup. So I don't know. I think the Islanders, this is a perfect letdown spot after the high, and I think the Canes look to play defensive here, maybe ride the back of Aho and Svetch in that, and get out with a win, ugly win.
Yeah, so Aho is out tonight.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of thing too, man. Kind of like you said on that 3-1. Over under tonight is 5.5. Seldom do you see an over under in hockey under 6. Like you said, Sorokin's been great. Had a couple bad games of late, and then the Hurricanes, they've just been inconsistent, man. I mean, they had a 5-game losing skid. 4 of those losses came in overtime. Followed that with 4 wins in a row, but then they lost to Anaheim at home. So, like, we're just not seeing the same Carolina team that we did last year. So, I don't know. I have trouble making a pick on this game. I was liking the under, but at 5.5, little dicey. Tanner, what's your take, man?
I can't make heads or tails of this game. It was like, so we know what Sorokin can do on both sides of it. He can stand on his head and make a 49 save shutout against Edmonton. Yeah. Or he can let in 4 goals against the terrible St. Louis Blues.
Yeah.
And it's just, you never know what you're going to get. If they weren't on a back-to-back, I would definitely go more Islanders here, just because I don't trust Ranta at all in that. He's been very inconsistent, and the Hurricanes are very good, but with Aho out, definitely losing a key piece there. I think they got Stastny up on that top line centering it. But yeah, I don't know what to make of it at all. I think it's just because of what Sorokin can do, plus 115 on the Islanders money line isn't bad. It's just, I don't know. I don't really like anything about this.
Fair enough. Yeah. With no Aho, Svechin's going to be the man tonight. His prop to score a goal, plus 180. I think that's a solid play. Burns to record a point, minus 138. I lean the under here, and it's funny. We got a request for an under. This is kind of one I like. We talked about a couple earlier, though. Which way would you go, Tanner? Would you take the under in this one or a different game?
Let me look real quick. I definitely don't hate this one. I don't like unders with 5.5, but with these teams,
I'm seeing 6 on ESPN. I don't know where they're pulling their data from, so you might be able to shop that around a little bit and get 6. And I would definitely like 6 way better than 5.5.
Yeah, if you can get 6 on this game, I'd take 6 for sure. 5.5 is just a little low. 6, you at least get that little push going.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Flames Leafs could be an under. I mean, that's plus 100 for even 6 right there. I don't mind that one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, both goals allowed is both bright red on my sheet, being the 30th and the 28th team in terms of goals allowed. So I definitely, like I said when we talked about the DFS side, I don't love that game, and I think people are going to flock there. So I definitely don't mind the under there, and that's sitting at 6. So.
I know I'm contradicting. I guess the over is plus 100. Excuse me. Under is minus 120. I know I'm contradicting myself when I said Leafs, 3.5 team total. But yeah, I think if you're going to pick, if you want an under, Flames Leafs or the Hurricanes Islanders, those are definitely my two tops.
And then, what about Canadiens Kings? I was kind of leaning under on that one. What do you guys think?
I think that game could just explode.
I don't. I think that game could shoot. Like I said, the Habs have just been absolutely trash in that, and then we'll see what happens with Copley. But I mean, Habs on home ice, Caulfield could score 3 himself, right? And if you get 2 or 3 on the other side, I mean, that's already pushing over. So
I say over there 6.5 plus 100. I don't mind that whatsoever.
Right on. Kind of probably staying away from the line on this Hurricanes game. Like in the under, if you can catch it at 6 instead of 5.5. Any other thoughts before we move on?
Nope.
I mean, Burns, you could look at Burns. He is a spend-up D-man, but with Aho out, he is probably going to be tasked with some more offensive duty here. He's playing about 24 minutes per game, which is crazy. He hasn't been shooting the puck as much as I'd like to see at that price point, but, I mean, without Aho, could look at that's where it plays more into that player prop, right, to record a point. So I definitely don't mind that lean there at all.
Fair enough. Tanner, anything else from you?
No, like I said, ugly game. Nothing I really love from it. So no.
Fantastic. All right, another game where under might be in play here. Minnesota Wild against the Vancouver Canucks. We touched on Vancouver earlier. They are a disgusting team, but they are really hot right now. They won 8 of their last 11. Going against a Minnesota Wild team that is on. They were on a 4-game winning streak. Went to Alberta, dropped 2 games. Now they close out their road trip here in Vancouver. Man, gross, in my opinion, man. I just got no read on this game. Nothing really sticks out to me. What do you think, Tanner?
I mean, anytime the Canucks are playing, the over is in play. They shoot the puck. They're like, offensively, they have all the skill in the world, and they just don't play defense. They just, for whatever reason, they refuse to, and they get lit up for. Sometimes they just get absolutely cooked. Like you said, 7-3 in last 10. But I mean, last game 6-5. Game before that 7-6. They've got only 2 games have hit 5 goals or less, or have hit 5 goals. So everything else is going over. 6.5 for the over. I'd never mind it when the Canucks are in play.
For sure. I mean, you and I kind of chatted in the Discord a little bit about the goalie situation in Vancouver. So Demko's out, who he was kind of so-so. Spencer Martin is taken over. And while his record, he has a great record, 8-2-1, his save percentage is 89%, which is just terrible for an NHL goalie. His first game, they beat the Sharks in overtime, 6-5. So really hard to make of it. Nate's fine. I'm guessing you love Vancouver on the DFS side, though.
Wrong. I do not actually. Well, so I should rephrase that. I don't mind them.
Okay.
I actually love the Wild here, and this is not a homer take. I don't live in Minnesota actually, like Matty Ice does, my counterpart. But I mean, Kirill Kaprizov is just an absolute stud. Kirill the Thrill. And Vancouver has allowed over 4.5 goals per game last 5 at home. And we're going to get Spencer Martin in that with this Wild squad on a 2-game losing streak. I look for them to right the ship before coming home here. And I think that you could see them pop. One thing to note, though, is the Nucks power play or penalty kill is incredible at 92% last 5, and they're only allowing about 2 chances per game. So that does bode well for the Nucks a little bit and kind of limits the Wild scoring, but they can get it done full strength. I mean, when you have a talent like Kaprizov and Matt Zuccarello, I mean, they can score on anyone. So I definitely like that. And on the Nucks side, I do like their offense here. I mean, Gustav is supposed to be in that, it looks like, for the Wild. He's not great. Nucks are at home on a 2-game winning streak, it looks like you said, 8 in the last 10, right? So they can definitely get it done. Horvat's on fire right now on that top line, top power play. So I definitely don't mind either side of this. And this could be a viable game stack here because there's quite a bit of gross games outside of some of the spots that we already hit on, like Buffalo and Pittsburgh. So you could just make this a 2-game slate. Maybe dabble in some Kings and just play the couple teams there in these 2 games and just make your teams that way.
For sure. Yeah. So I was going to point out with Gustafsson and net, definitely kind of opens up even more scoring opportunities for Vancouver. So I like that take there.
So yeah, the Wild, I mean, like we said, Vancouver, no defense whatsoever. Kaprizov is plus 125 as an anytime goal scorer. That guy shoots a million times a game. Plus 125, I think, is not doing him justice.
Average about 5 shots per game.
Yeah, so he just takes a ton. He's just such an elite player. Plus 125 for him is a very, very good line.
Right.
Plus money for him, I'll take that any day.
Yeah.
And Eriksson Ek is actually playing well the last 5. He's on that top power play with Mats and Kaprizov. Again, their penalty kill is good. But I mean, that can slip. I mean, you can have a bad game, right? And just give up penalties, and sometimes offensive firepower can bode better than penalty kill, right? And a lot of that goes into some of the teams that they've played too, right? So
right on.
No, I definitely lean towards the Wild on this one. They're minus 105 is the winner.
Yeah.
Over is definitely my favorite play on this, though. Like I said, Canucks overs, they go hand in hand.
Love it. Nate's fine. Anything else from you before we move on?
Should be it. Like I said, Wild. That top line is definitely nice. Add in at that power play correlation, and definitely like the Wild for some DFS, but don't hate the Nucks here either.
Fantastic. Are your cores posted?
No, cores will after this. I'm going to finish up the playbook, get my cores out. Cores will be out probably in the next 2 hours or so. Give you plenty of time to build lineups. That's the glory of NHL DFS is you can kind of set your lineups and forget them as long as that you just double check and make sure there's no late scratches. So you can throw in your NHL winners and then head over to the Run Pure Sports side and catch the NBA winners. And yeah.
Fantastic, man. Again, if you made it this far, make sure you drop us a like. We do appreciate it. And before we close out, man, we're going to give our favorite plays of the day. Both you guys, if you guys got a bet you love, or if you want to just drop maybe a DFS hidden gem. Tanner, I'll start with you.
I mean, we talked about it earlier. Penguins over. I really like that one. That's just two teams that can light it up. Goalies that maybe aren't great at times. So yeah, Penguins over 6.5 minus 125. That's definitely my favorite.
Fantastic. Nate's by you, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of go off the wall a little bit here and say the King stack is going to hit the winner circle here on this slate. Like I said, this Montreal team is just not great in terms of defense on home ice, and I think these Kings at their prices, especially that second line, can get it done. So add them to your stacks and collect your money.
Fantastic, man. So bets, DFS sides, we guys got you covered. Coming into this, my favorite play also was the Buffalo-Pittsburgh over. I'll diversify a little bit, give a different pick. And I like the Panthers money line, plus 115. I love the plus money. Tampa's just been too inconsistent for me. I think Florida continues to roll. So that's it from me. Thank you all for joining us. And Run Pure, baby. Anything else from you guys?
Nope, you covered it.
Thanks all.
See you next time.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks.